Yeah, thank you guys so much for being here, our panelists, our participants. We're so happy that you're here with us, and hopefully by the end of this like little casual like workshop discussion session, you would feel a lot more prepared to start your research journey, or you would feel that you have a lot more of kind of like a path in mind, or kind of like what's your next step to kind of know how to really get into research in the field that you're interested in. So yeah, why don't we first start with introductions from our panelists? Um, I can start first. So I'm not going to be one of the people speaking about research, but I'll be helping lead this podcast or this discussion session. My name is Audrey. I'm the co-founder and president of Everything Starts Small. This podcast and event, it's a part of Youth Empowerment Society. And basically, we're a collection of organizations that have come together to create this youth empowerment Discord community to help people with various fields that they're interested in, various topics, give advice, give mentorship. So we're so glad that you're here with us today. Um, and yeah, so Sabrina, Dara, Andra, whoever would like to go next.
I could go next. So I do research at the Scripps Institute. It's in San Diego and I'm nearby. I'm about like an hour away, so the work I do is remote. And that's because I work with a research program within the research sort of like institute. And so I work with the All of Us research program, which is an NIH funded program. And because I'm interested in data science, the research that I do is essentially sort of expanding healthcare data. So, especially for underrepresented communities, so like Latinos, etc., people who haven't been historically represented in healthcare, we work on sort of expanding that through providing wearables and research studies, and things like that. So, if anybody's sort of interested on the more like remote side of research, more like wearable technology based, that's sort of what I do.
My name is Dara. I'm a high schooler in New York. I mainly do research in the fields of like biology, and currently I'm doing a lot of engineering and like CS related work. So I've previously done research at Harvard, so more at the medical level with like low and middle income countries. And currently I'm doing research at MIT, mostly interested in like LLMs, prompt engineering, and like AI for clinicians. So I do various projects encompassing that. One of my latest projects has to do with like the digital determinants of health, which is kind of like a new concept that's coming up. And I'm also doing like wet lab research at RPI, which is a local university near me. And I've also done research at like leading international hospitals. So that's in Qatar and India. So I feel like I appeal to a lot of students who want to get at the top universities, but are starting from like international countries where your local lab is not Harvard, your local lab is not MIT, or you might not even have a local lab. So yeah.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Sabrina, and I am a nonprofit owner too, which is actually how I met Audrey. But I'm the founder of Mindtricks, Magic of Neuroscience, and we're a based on like neuroscience, things like that. On the research side, I'm a researcher at Harvard University and Brigham and Women's, and I mostly do oncofetal protein related research. I work at the Chai Lab, and a lot of my work, I did a year of mostly dry lab, a lot of like review, literature review, and creations of like a Zeta Globin project that I led for a other couple other high schoolers. And during the summer, I did a lot of wet lab as I am a local in Massachusetts. So I have some experience of commuting. It definitely gets expensive, but I have tips if you guys need that. But from doing that, I definitely learned a lot of cell culture, a lot of RNA extraction, qPCR, Western blot, things like that, a lot of lab techniques. And the project that I mainly worked under was a project, a part of Dr. Junsu Kwan's work, which was regarding cancer testis antigens and testing their demethylation cycle, which was pretty similar to SALT4, which is just an oncofetal protein, meaning that it's very expressed in your fetal development. But then as you develop into adult stages, there kind of becomes that antigen is methylated, so therefore it's stop expressed. But when you go to cancer cells, it's demethylated and again activated. And yeah, lots of cool cancer things with that. And I also do a little bit of separate independent research on my own regarding around sirtuins 1 through 7, which is just a group of enzymes that are also involved in cancer. So if you guys are interested in cancer research, I do a lot of that.
That is so cool. And I love, how you guys are all kind of working in kind of similar, but still like a lot of different kind of like areas. Yeah, that's great. And I know Sabrina, you're currently like on the car. I think it's because she had like a Mindtrix event, right? Mindtrix is her nonprofit, I believe. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, super glad that you guys are all here with us. Personally, I know that, our three panelists today have a lot of experience to share with you guys. They have a really amazing, advice, not just like the conventional, advice I feel like you can get elsewhere. So yeah, super excited. So we do have some questions in the chat, but the first question we'll start off with, that's kind of a lot of people prior to this meeting also mentioned that they wanted to know more about is how to really get started. And I believe this also really reflects on the questions in the chat. So how do you kind of get started? Because, you guys are all doing university level research, working with professors. You guys are, actual members in these university level labs. So of course, one doesn't go from, oh, hey, I'm interested in like medicine. And then all of a sudden, next day they're working with a professor. So how would you say you can kind of get started? What are kind of your first few steps to kind of like dip your feet into the field?
Maybe I could kind of start that off with kind of an overview of what rejection feels like. That's probably not the best intro, but I think that to get started, you need to get rejected a lot first. Also, I think taking leaps. I applied to a lot, or I didn't apply. I cold emailed personally. Cold email was my secret weapon, but I cold emailed a ton of universities and got rejection after rejection after rejection. Everyone was like, "Oh no, we don't want you because you don't have any experience." But I think that the main takeaway is to not let that discourage you, and also don't be scared to ask to reach schools. In the beginning, I was like, "Oh, Harvard's not going to accept me because I'm like a high schooler," but they will because everyone has kind of a similar mindset where they actually aren't applying to, or they're not cold emailing professors from Harvard because they think that they won't get it. But since there's that almost kind of makes it easier to get into Harvard or MIT or something like that because everyone that's contacting your local universities, they're so overpacked that they don't have space for interns. But when you go to more high level places, they're not being asked, so they have more spaces and things like that. That's not always the case though. Like I definitely got rejected from my fair share of Ivy League universities as well. But definitely, I would just say shoot your shot literally everywhere. I think I sent out at least 100 emails before I got someone to respond. And I think another part is structuring your cold emails so they are really tailored to who you're asking to. Um, Cold emails definitely don't just use a template. You want to customize it to every professor. And I think a good rule of thumb is that if you could send the same cold email to this another person that you're sending a cold email to, it's not good enough. And you need to revise it so it's very personalized. And you want to make it seem like you read a ton of their research and got into a ton of like what they want because it makes them feel like special. And as they are, they're very special people. So you definitely want to appeal to that. And you also want to be genuinely interested in the research that they're in because it will show if you're not interested in it. Usually, I will say this, they will test you most likely during your first week. My first week, I think I had to prepare a 40 slide thing as a beginning intern, and you just want to max that out. You want to absolutely like wow them away with whatever they give you as your first assignment, and make sure you do not slack on that first assignment because that first assignment will give you the baseline on how well they will give you work for in the future.
No, that makes sense. I think that's so interesting, like testing that out. And yeah, Andra, Dar, would you guys like to add on to that or anything?
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
say,
Okay,
oh,
you can go. It's okay.
oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry. I just really wanted to quickly say, Sabrina, what you said about like wowing them when you they give you your first assignment. I think that is really important. I started out as just a summer intern, but they actually asked me to extend my internship throughout my fall semester and then my spring semester, and then I ended up just becoming a paid intern and doing it for about a year and something now. So I think definitely if you show them that you're passionate about it and that you keep trying and you really wow them with something because you show them that you tried really hard, they definitely might ask you to do it for even longer or just be like very impressed by you and have a better like outlook on how you do. But yeah, I'll let you go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. So, I mean, first to say that see if you're really interested in the subject before even reaching out to people. I find that knowing baseline information is the first step. Like, I'm sure you guys know, like, you won't be able to get into any data science research or cancer research without knowing basic math or basic biology. So I think starting off with like a basic level of science, and this does not have any age attached to it. Like you can be a middle schooler, but have done like biology level, like high school biology courses, and that would be fine. Um, I really like to use LinkedIn. I am a strong advocate for usage of LinkedIn to cold message professors. Um, and I find this is also a good technique because a lot of professors they receive like hundreds of emails every day. At least people who work at the Ivy League or that top tier level of like universities. So and a lot of them are from their peers and or their students, and they have to attend to those first, or even undergrads from other top universities. You're at the end of the day, you're just a high schooler, so they might not look at your email. And some like because I've tried cold emailing, and a lot of the times I don't even get responses, even though it's a very personal email. So I looked into LinkedIn and trying to form connections with people who work at these top universities. They do read your messages more because LinkedIn is a more exclusive space and more of an exclusive community. And also because they can also look at your LinkedIn and kind of review what you've done. Like they can look at your experience, your education, and other qualifications that you have that might make you seem suitable for the role. So you don't have to write like paragraphs of about yourself. Like you really need not to talk about yourself for like a couple of paragraphs. You can just sum it up to 3 to 4 sentences of what your top achievements are. And I know someone in the chat just mentioned like, can you review like cold emails or how do you send these kind of cold emails? That's very personal to you. Like my cold email template is very different from every other panelist here and the host as well. So it depends on who you are. And it also depends on the person you're reaching out to, the kind of research that they're doing, and what kind of like if you look, because sometimes you want to do research at a corporate level, sometimes you want to work at a hospital, or you want to work at a IT company, but you're still kind of doing research or like that kind of work with them as what you would do in a lab. But you're writing a very different email as opposed to if you want to do research at a lab where you're mainly focusing on, oh, I love your research. I'm really interested in this type of cell research that you're doing or something like that. I really don't think there are any age restrictions to sending like research to the person who sent that in the chat. Yeah. And already, yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And yeah, Dara actually has a lot to say about, LinkedIn and reaching out, which we'll go more into later on, but she has so much advice on that, and it's honestly so helpful. Um, I think before we move on to kind of like the next kind of topic, I know there's been a lot of questions in the chat, one of which is, what do you think is the best way you have to have like a mind of a researcher? And I think kind of adding on to that, I think one question I feel like people might be wondering is, how you guys have been saying to, cold email and reach out. So when at that stage, would you say that, was that in the beginning of your research journey, or did you feel that there was like a process that you had to go through? Like, did you first like maybe start a blog about, what you're interested in, or did you first join competitions, or how did you really build up your profile, and have, similarly this mind of a researcher, and then you reached out, kind of wanted to hear your experience on that.
I just quickly wanted to say that you don't have to be like cold emailing. I think that cold emailing can be very successful, and a lot of people do get research through that. But there's also a lot of great research programs that are tailored to high school students that you can apply to that are not like RSI, because RSI is extremely competitive, and I think like less than 1% of applicants get in. But I also forgot to mention I did research at NYU at the Secure Systems Lab, and I did that through a program called GSTEM for rising seniors who are interested in STEM, and if you're a girl in STEM, it's really good for you, but I think that also others can apply. Um, but it's programs like that that you can also apply that make it much easier, especially if you don't really have much experience in research itself. they're meant to sort of get you into that field before you might want to cold email other labs and expand your research knowledge as well. So when I applied for my internship at the Scripps Institute, I can actually send the application in the chat because it might just be easier for you guys to get more familiar with the applications. And then once you get more experience like that, it might be you might get more responses through LinkedIn or cold emailing when you have more experience in that field.
Yeah. Firstly, I really like your question, like the way, especially the way you phrased it. What do you think is the best way to have the mind of a researcher? I find that just being curious in general, just the whole point of doing research is to find out information about whatever, any topic, and this applies to any kind of research. So I think starting off at a younger age of just being curious about what people say and like trying to find out more is helps you kind of develop that mind. As to how did I start research? I firstly wrote a book, and it's tied mostly to like global health. And then someone from Harvard reached out to me, and because they read the book and they did like a lot of the content, and then that's how I kind of started off my journey. The way you start off your journey is can be very different. Um, I know a lot of people who do like these summer programs. I find that they're pretty good, but they can be quite expensive. So just look into what suits you the best. But I think summer programs are better than stuff like Crimson and like Crimson as a company like show for you. Yeah.
Also, shout out to Project Connect Forum because they have really good resources for education. Um, Also, to kind of build off on what you guys said as well, I think I definitely agree with Nora about how you do have to definitely be curious. I think also on going into the mind of a researcher, when I was first beginning research, I literally had no experience and I really didn't know that much about science. I would say just email and just show that you have a really big interest, which is the curiosity element. Also, when you go into the lab, especially at like Harvard or like a really big school, um, there's kind of like you get a sense of the type of people that work there and also the type of personality. And I think a very big tip is just to like carry yourself to that same poise and try to mirror the role models around you. Everyone there is going to be like super well acclaimed. Like I remember like my PI or my principal investigator and like everyone that I was working for or working under or working with, they were all extremely talented and smart individuals. And I think carrying that presence and kind of mirroring them definitely helps you become like more respected because you will of course we're all high schoolers, so you know there's a kind of like a level of, you know, we only have a high school knowledge, but you definitely will get to a level of having them believe that you're a great choice for an intern if you carry yourself up to the same level as they present themselves. But I think another thing to do is dedication. I think I spent around 80 hours per week in the lab or doing work for the lab during my summer stay, and I went every day of the week. And I think that that is very important because you will only learn everything that you need to know, especially for the wet lab techniques. Mostly you need cell culture, RT-qPCR, RNA extraction, and I would say Western blot as well. And that kind of helps you almost be up to your bachelor's degree. But you want to be totally 100% like dedicated, and you want to be going every single day, and you want to show that you'll be there every day from at least 9 to 5. That must be like your minimum like dedication during the summer and every day. And also dedication is really big because like that's kind of the major thing you can offer them is showing that you're really dedicated. But another thing is gratefulness. It's extremely important to show that you're grateful for every opportunity. Usually when I worked in the lab during my summer stay, I'd have weekly meetings, and at the end of my summary, I'd always make sure to like say like thank you so much for this opportunity. They definitely appreciate it and definitely see it as something that's like poised and like very respectful. And I think that just also like being very willing to learn is very important. There's no way you would go into the wet lab and not make mistakes. It is going to be extremely difficult. And also things like cell culture, if you get to cell culture, you will like I contaminated my cells the first day because I opened the lid. Like you'll probably just make like random stupid mistakes that you would never make once you're at the end of your summer, just because like you don't know yet. A lot of science has a lot to learn and there's a lot of mistakes to make. Everything's very expensive, and just like make sure that every single thing that they say you want to immediately absorb and apply, and you want to study it. You want to remember every single thing that they say. In your project summary meetings, you can basically, what I used to do is have an entire list of every single bullet point of information that they've ever given me of advice, and they find that to be really great. Make it like extensive, make it long, make it like really dramatic, because then they'll be like, oh wow, you really did listen to me. And overall, just make sure you don't make the same mistake twice, because it's very easy to make a lot of mistakes. So you want to, if you build up your mistakes, you want to make sure that you don't do them again. And these are three things just make sure you don't do in the wet lab sense, because you might get fired. Just because it's very expensive, and I do have an experience of knowing another high school student that was not able to do wet lab after this. But when you're doing RNA extraction, you do not want to do, like, I would say do everything under the chemical hood, because if you inhale like chloroform or some dangerous like chemicals, you could like die. And then also another thing is when you're in the cell culture hood, you want to make sure that you are not contaminating anything. Everything is one use only, because if you're doing drug treatment or if you're working on multiple cell lines, you do not want anything or any like liquids from those two cell cultures to touch. Another thing is quality over time. You always want to do quality and then spend more of your time doing it. I once spent 6 hours straight on a qPCR, which is very annoying, but you want to make sure that you're more detailed and get everything right, because you will not be given leeway as a high schooler, because once you mess up, high schoolers are very replaceable. So you want to make sure that you show them that you're of extreme value. So you want to make sure that like maybe you can't eat lunch that day, but you did finish your PCR. So in a very quality way. Of course, make sure to take care of yourself. I definitely did not condone lacking nutrition, but you do want to put in a lot of dedication and sacrifice as much time as you can for this. Like research is something where you really have to just pinpoint it and focus solely on that. But yeah, that's how to have the mind of a researcher, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also to add on to what you said, I feel like you will develop a lot of like organizational skills through doing this, because I know at least Sabrina has a nonprofit. So even though research is your only thing, research is not your entire life. It's a majority of your life, because I find that once you start with research, you generally like to continue on with research if you do like it and you're genuinely like passionate about it. So generally it's a huge part of your life. But I find that it's very helpful to gain like basic organizational skills, and just like even as Sabrina was saying, commuting skills, stuff like that. I don't think anyone will tell you to get like gain commuting skills in order to do research, but really basic things like this, I think they're the ones that actually like make you like finish or like complete or like grow your research journey to the fullest. And also you talked a lot about like working well with people. um I find that like if they give you any task, like what I generally do is I like to hear from them. Like if I have a wet lab research on a particular day, I generally send them an email about to ask them what we're exactly going to do. So then I read up about it and learn how to do it on myself, so that like helps you with like priming. And then once you already kind of know, you're able to perform better, and you're able to actually like absorb what they're telling you and the specifics of that. And you tend not to make as many mistakes. And that's also like a sign of uh, like interest. You actually care about it. You actually want to do well. So that's why you're reading up about it. And that also shows your curiosity in a certain way, because you're curious about, okay, what exactly am I going to do, you know?
Also, I really want to suggest if you want to be a researcher, you need to be curious. You need to have a very open mind, and you need to just not be scared of jumping straight into things, because you're not going to know what you're researching. You're a high schooler. You will jump into a completely different world. And what really helped me was my professor was very understanding, and most will be very understanding. Because if you take any random person and you throw them into that field, they're not going to know. And these people are there to help you. So don't be shy to ask them questions. For my GSTEM research program, we only had 6 weeks, and I had never researched software systems before. And so I was just really confused, but I didn't let that stop me. And I asked a bunch of questions. And what they told me at the end of my research was that they really appreciated that despite me not knowing much about it, that I asked questions and that I was able to succeed anyways. So things like that, um, being curious about the small things that shows you're interested and that you're listening, um, and putting yourself out there, not being scared to ask those questions because it is scary when you're going up to somebody with their doctorate and they know everything and you're like, hey, I don't know this basic simple program. It's terrifying, but you need to get over it because everybody starts out at square one. So,
Yeah, I
And
like. Oh, mhm.
yeah, and also to say that these professors, they don't know everything. Like I've worked with people at MIT and Harvard, and they don't know all of the research. Even within their own field, they would have a PhD, but they would still not know the ever so specific things. So you're just not alone. They also don't know everything.
Yeah, I remember Dara was telling us about that in one of our previous meetings. But yeah, it was quite interesting for, me to hear. And yeah, kind of, I feel like a general theme I'm seeing within all of your responses is like this idea of like curiosity, determination, and really, carrying yourself to this higher standard. And I do completely agree with that. I feel like, if you reach out and, through your cold email or whatever you're doing to show that you're truly curious and like they previously said, like all of you guys said, to really, read into that professor's work, to really include like, oh, I like your work in specific, blah, 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 blah. And it does show through whether you've like read it or not and whether you're actually curious about it or not. So if you are serious about research, you should really, be truly dedicated to it. And kind of like Sabrina had said, like she had dedicated so many hours during the summer, and that kind of standard is required if you want to do anything well, you know what I mean? So kind of reflecting on that, we do have a few people in the chat who asked some questions about being, a high school junior looking to do research. I know, Drew, you said, is it too late to get research opportunities as a high school junior? And in quotations, no past experience. Kind of, you know, seeing like another view of that question. So if you're a high school junior, and actually, for those of you guys who don't know, all of us, so all four of us are actually high school juniors. So we're, going through the same experiences. And so if you are a high school junior, and if you don't have past experience, we're wondering what would be your advice? What are the first few steps, they should do? And then, what are the steps for them to actually get involved in, like, let's say the last 1 year of high school?
Honestly, like you don't need any experience, I would say. I think like when I first okay, I didn't start research in junior year, but when I pulled email my freshman, I think this also goes to age restrictions. I started my lab during my freshman year, and I think I was 14. So usually, okay, labs, a lot of labs will say that there's age restrictions, most likely because they like don't have openings. But if you get an age restriction, like usually that's not true. It's just that, or there might be age restrictions in the wet lab, but there's not usually age restrictions in dry lab, just because it's a lot of literature review. So I would say, especially you can say this in your full emails too. If phrase it well, okay, wet lab is more preferable because first of all it's more fun and also you get to actually experiment. But also phrase it in your email saying that I'm open to any work that I could do to benefit your lab. And most likely they'll at least give you like dry lab work or something like that if you really are persistent. I think another tip too is to really be persistent. Like I almost got ghosted by my lab like for 2 months, and then like you just have to keep emailing and following up because most likely like if you don't show that persistence it won't happen, but if you show that persistence like you'll get to a point. What I like to say is I thought I was getting ghosted my entire first half of my research journey, and then I was like, oh man, like I have to do my next assignment. But then you will get to a point where you're so comfortable where you know that like they're gonna be okay and they will keep contacting you back. But I would say like you really don't need any research experience. As a freshman, I like didn't do anything in research. I think I played soccer. That was probably like the extent of stuff I did. You really just have to show that you're really interested and willing to learn. I think the most that they're looking for is just people who are willing to learn and will learn and are not stubborn in their own um like ways of things. I think actually sometimes that's more preferable to not know anything because like I like to say like I'm like fully chai lab trained, or basically I'm trained fully by them. And sometimes like they'll prefer that when you're fully trained by just them because you'll do it their way. Um And sometimes if you do it from like multiple other labs or things like that, not that this is discouragement off, usually that just adds credentials, but I would say don't let your like past credentials like kind of define where you go in research. You really can start at any moment. It really just takes like full emailing and persistence and dedication.
Yeah, and about ghosting, these professors are typically super busy. Somebody asked in the chat how many times is too many times to follow up. I have a friend who did research at the GSTEM program as well, and her professor was literally just taking like a bunch of vacations, or he was working, or like he was just a super busy person, and she had to follow up with him about 2 to 3 times. So, don't take it too personally and don't get discouraged. I mean, there is definitely a time where you might be sending like too many, or maybe they're just like you have to learn like one is enough. But like typically 2 to 3 is like not pushing it, especially if these people are at like big labs, they definitely have a lot of things on their plate.
Yeah, and also to follow up on that, I mean, there are a lot of professors and assistant professors and postdocs, so you don't really need to email just that one person. If they don't respond for 2 to 3 times, or even I've never followed up 4 times, but you can. But if they don't, there are so many other people that you can reach out to. So just reach out to the other people. Like even if you're looking at local labs, like or like I mean, your local lab could be a top league lab, um, but just email as much as you can. And your question was, how do you is it too late to start research when you're in 11th grade, or when you're a junior? T Totally not. I don't think there's any like general like limit to start research. Um, how? I know Andra suggested quite a few programs, and I think that's a good way to get started because that's easy, and it's kind of a straightforward path. Because I mean, what I did and what Sabrina did was more of the cold emailing path, and it's you're not required to get a response. Like there could be a situation where no one responds, and then you wouldn't have any research experience, and that would be sad for you. But what is guaranteed is applying to these programs because there's a deadline December 2024. March 2024, 2025, they're going to give you a result and you're going to start in June. So it's a very defined path. And you can apply to a lot of these programs um, um, and to guarantee your kind of like admission to one program. And I also suggest just like looking at people around you. I know there's a big research community in general. So if you know people who do some kind of research or who like work for a particular company where you're in that field of research, you can ask them questions to just generally just learn more about the field. I feel like research is a very good thing to like get into like a lot of other things, but also just knowing things is a pretty good skill to know. Like not it's a pretty good thing to like if you're interested in software engineering and your uncle is a software engineer, ask a lot of questions, look into softwares, do your own research.
Yeah, so it's sounding like if you're a high school junior, or even if you're whatever age you are in, if you want to get into research and you don't have an experience, kind of summarizing it all up, definitely don't be afraid to reach out. And like they all said, the biggest thing is to be curious. You really have to put in the time and effort to learn about that area and to show that you're truly curious, truly willing to learn, and like Sabrina said, not be stubborn, since of course they know a lot more than you, to really show that you're willing to put in the work. So I would say, if you're a high school junior and if you have like a lot of workload and you can't be fully, dedicated to, let's say, university level research, it's definitely recommended probably for you to look into one of those programs, or one of those, other, I know somebody in the chat mentioned online research programs. But yeah, if anyone has questions, you guys can put it in the chat. But yeah, online research programs. So if you're a junior, but if you feel like you have the time to be truly, truly dedicated, even throughout the school year, and even if it's like dry lab, things like not like in person, or I guess dry lab could also be in person, but not like wet lab research, you definitely still want to definitely put in the time and effort. So the biggest thing is to just show that the professor's research very well. You're very, very curious, very willing to do anything to learn, to shadow their work, to kind of show that interest and that, genuine kind of research mind that you have. And I know somebody just put in the chat, do you think calling professors is appropriate? I've emailed dozens, but none have responded. Personally, I know all of you guys can also just unmute and mention it, but personally, I'm also kind of in the process of reaching out. And I have been, ever since the beginning of this year, actually. So it's been, a long time, and I totally get that, it can be quite discouraging when people don't respond to your emails. But personally, I do not think calling professors is appropriate. Yeah. Andra, Sabrina, Dara, would you guys like to kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think calling is not appropriate as well. Um, like also, I mean, you can. I would definitely not suggest because firstly, like they're probably not interested in what you're gonna say. Like, so first to get that interest, I feel like if they don't respond to your emails, if they don't respond to you on LinkedIn, just send them follow-up messages. And if they do not respond and they have seen it, then they're not interested. So if they're not interested, there's no point in being persistent. And also, I just wanted to answer for the previous question as well onto what Audrey was trying to say. If you're not able to invest the amount of time, do not waste someone's time or waste their time by sending them emails. If you're not able to spend whatever required time to work for their research, do not waste that professor's time by sending the email. Do not waste your time in trying to write an email, a perfect email, and sending it to them. So I think that's something you need to know. Like if you're very passionate about sports or very passionate about music, and that takes up a lot of your day, and you're writing college applications, you're prepping for the SAT. Students nowadays have a lot of commitments, and if you can't really um, do research, then yeah. Or what you could do is you could do summer opportunities because generally you don't have school in the summer, so you can work on that. Yeah.
I would also say, yeah. Oh wait, also adding on to what Dara just said too. I would say someone in the chat I think also said like, is online competitions and online programs like equivalent to university lab experience? And I think that both are extremely, extremely valuable. But I think that you will get the most experience and the most like out benefit. I think if you're really serious, like Dara was talking about, and can commit yourself, you will get the most experience out of wet lab and doing it in person. Um, because it's not even just about the research, it's also, I think, about like kind of finding the type of person that's in research and kind of mirroring yourself to embody that as well. I think that in research, it's also a lot about carrying yourself in like a certain way. And you'll learn that from seeing like physical people that embody those like toys and things like that inside the lab. And also like like on like a technique. But I'm not sure if you guys are also like this, but me personally, I can only do it like replicate something unless I like personally do it. And I think that once you do so much lab like in person, not only will you most likely be able to get more lab experiences in college, most likely just because when colleges are faced with, they could hire a high school student that has no prior lab experience, they have to spend 3 months on training them, they have to spend reagents on like their mistakes most likely. Or they can take a high school student that has already made the mistakes and has already been paid for by like another lab to make those mistakes with their money for the reagents and has also already had the experience. Most likely they will choose a more experienced student, and that will come from like actual wet lab experience. But again, online competitions and things like that, sometimes they're the most accessible, which is definitely great. That's a great perk of them, and they're definitely good to invest in. But I would say that if you can, absolutely go try your hardest to get into wet lab. But yeah, also for cold emailing, like the cold call thing, I think calling is a little bit personal. So I think unless you like personally know them, I wouldn't as well. But I would suggest something that if you're really trying to get like, a position and it's not working, I would suggest a lukewarm email. And that's finding someone that is kind of related to the lab that you're talking to, or maybe just another professor, and have them recommend you, connect you to that person. So be like, hi, like blah, 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 my name is from this. And like find someone in your circle that you know that's related to research and have them email you for them and be like, hi, I'm like, I don't know, whatever job they are, and be like, I have a student that's interested in this. And then you guys can get connected through that lukewarm like connection.
Yeah. Also, as what you were saying about um just the poise, I find that this is a really important tip. So I feel like every day that you go to the lab is like an interview. you need to dress well, you need to speak well. I feel like these kind of things are just very important because this is a professional setting. These are not your friends in school. This is a very professional setting, and if you don't match that professional ethic, I think then you're already one step lower. I mean, you're already one step lower because you don't know everything, and then it's just like putting yourself like on the ground. So really just dress well, look presentable, speak well, be nice, be attentive, do not be late, do not be a mess, just be prepared. I feel like this just makes you have, this just is like, just follow the normal recommendations of just getting a good first impression. And you were also talking about the whole lukewarm email thing. And I think that this is a very important technique. So I actually did get a research opportunity through lukewarm emails. Like I emailed one of the postdocs and they referred me to the the head of the lab, and that's how I got the opportunity. So I do think this is effective because uh like when I go through the LinkedIn process, I just connect with whoever does CS research at this university, and at the same time I'm connecting with postdocs. So it's easier to get connected to postdocs because they're already kind of at a lower level. They have more time compared to a doctorate level or a head of a lab. So they have more time to deal with you and to help you kind of like explore your research journey in that particular field. And and yeah, it's easier to get connected with someone who's lower than up there. Also, I feel like this is important because um they've also like recently experienced a lot of mistakes in their like research journey. They're more new to research, so they're well aware of, okay, for example, do not do not smell this chemical or you're gonna die. They're more aware of it than someone who's high up there who has never made that mistake in the recent past. So they're gonna inform you of all these things not to do, like all these things to avoid. So I think that'll also help you learn. And it's, I think a lot of people say it's better to learn from a beginner if you're a beginner than to learn from the expert because they're also kind of growing along with you.
Um, I also wanted to say about that person who asked the question about online research programs versus research in labs. I think it definitely really does matter what you want to major in or what you want to pursue later on in life. Because for me, who's like more interested in comp sci, there's not really any like wet lab research for me to do. So a lot of the experience that I got to get was remote. And even when I was at NYU, a lot of people just weren't at the lab. Like it was always really empty and everybody was like scheduling Zooms. And that was mainly the work that we did. So, of course, if you're more interested in biology or like if you want to become a doctor someday, it's definitely very important for you to probably get some wet lab research experience into there. But if you're interested in maybe like comp sci or you're still sort of like seeking things out, I would say that online participation would be very beneficial too. So it really just matters what you want to do because if you want to go into comp sci, I'm not sure how much like in-lab research you can really get because a lot of the times it's more convenient for the people in that lab to be doing Zoom calls as opposed to like going into the office. So it really depends what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think adding on to that, yeah, so for like these online research programs, you guys probably know, but there are, a couple out there, and I know some of them could be pretty expensive. So I mean, if you're like high school junior, or if you feel like you want to go through a program that's kind of online that kind of shows you how to write like a research paper to kind of really understand the topic first. I think some good programs might be these. So specifically, the first program, Pioneer, they have, I think the program is like sectioned off into like 2 months or a few like couple weeks. They have like you can apply throughout the year, or they have like different like tracks, and you can start like during the school year. So that also shows you like if you kind of are a high school junior and you don't have time to go into the lab to do these things, those programs might be something that you want to look into. Specifically for Pioneer, like it works like the first like 5 or 6 weeks or so, your professor will give you specific readings in the area. So they'll like teach you more about the topic. And those readings might be things that you've never learned about before. Whereas some other research programs, maybe it's just to have somebody teach you how to write a paper, but not so much like the content, if that makes sense. But yeah, so if anyone's interested in just understanding the topic more, those are two I think pretty good online programs to just like have a general understanding from, and then from there, I think you can um, and I think from there you
Um,
can kind of
um,
reach out. Mhm.
oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Because I know Audrey, I think you have experience with doing research with programs, right?
Yeah, so those were things that I did in like
Mm,
freshman year. So this was quite a
okay.
while ago, but I do think so. But yeah, like going off of what somebody asked, I have heard that. So this is at least this is what I think. I think in terms of those two programs, um, of course, compared to university level research, is the research like level is not as high. But as somebody, if you're somebody who's
Mm,
having trouble, getting into it, or nobody's responding to your things, if you're feeling like stagnant, I would say that that's somewhere to start, because that also gives you, if you have specific questions about university level research, usually those mentors are also from universities. Um, but of course,
Um,
if you're, oh,
no, go.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but of course, if you're taking research really seriously, the goal is not one of those programs. Like, you don't want to be like, I am applying to be in something science, and then the best research I've ever done is in Pioneer or Lumiere. I don't think, obviously, that isn't as compelling. I feel like those things are things that can supplement your experience and maybe can give you experience when reach out in cold email. You can kind of, when you cold email, you can say you had this experience previously working with these professors through online research, writing a paper, but that is not like the end goal if you are a research focused
Yeah.
student.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, as for online research programs, I do know a couple of students who got into top universities through these programs. It wasn't Lumiere or Pioneer. It was mostly like these Ivy League universities, and they have their own affiliated programs, and that's attached with the university. So although these were very expensive, and this isn't really accessible to most, although it's easy to get into, um, they found it pretty helpful because they could like connect with the community. They could connect with like the community of this Ivy League university. They could meet the professors and university faculty that they were gonna go into. So they ended up getting into that university, but I think you can also it's also kind of like college touring and kind of like experiencing the college like environment. I find that that's helpful. I've also heard that these research programs aren't as good, but as I think Audrey explained pretty well, um, they aren't the last thing. And I do recommend them if you're like freshman or you're in middle school or this is something that you're getting started with. But also, if you want to get started with, just do your own like Google research. Just like learn from the internet. I do recommend Rishabh Jain. I also met Audrey through his Discord. I do recommend watching a lot of his videos on research, and I find that they're quite helpful. So just learn more about the research. As for competitions, I think the big ones are JSHS and mainly ISEB really. Um, I do think they're pretty good, but they have quite a bit of competitive nature. So I wouldn't say it's the best thing for you to get started with. And because a lot of it has to do with like independent research, and you can't really work at a lab and then present that research because it has to be your own research. It's hard to get as much experience because you're kind of like teaching yourself to do the project. So it's mostly like dry lab work.
I also wanted to. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, we
Um,
know.
for paid programs, I really wouldn't recommend them because I mean, like, there is a lot of opportunities that you can get for free, whether it's through cold emailing or just applying to programs. I want to specify for GSTEM, there is a data science scholarship. So where you essentially get like free tuition, and if you don't live in New York, you also get free dorming. And so I really only went because of the scholarship. I wouldn't have gone and paid that tuition because I wouldn't recommend that. Also, it was in New York, so I was like, I have to go. I can't pass up the opportunity, but definitely try and shy away from paid or paying for some research experience because I'm very certain that if you continue looking, you'll find some that are free, or you might even get a stipend. That's what one of my other research programs did. So definitely make sure to expand your horizons before settling for paying.
I definitely agree too. I think another thing with actually this kind of goes, I think definitely if you cannot find a lab, definitely like apply to programs. But I think another thing is that there are programs that will pay you to do the research. So I would definitely recommend doing those first because like I said before, you're going to be spending a lot of time in the lab and you definitely get paid for that if you can, or you do not want to be paying for that when you can just get it for free. But another thing also is that when you apply to a program, um the reason I think okay, I think what helped me is like knowing why things are like good and why things are bad. But I would say, or not bad, but just not as like ideal. But I think the reason why paid programs especially are not ideal, and also maybe like sometimes programs as well, is just because you will not be given as much attention as you would as if you're the only person that cold email. And another thing that like if you guys are looking into this for college, colleges want to see that you show initiative. And the thing is, like if you initiate your own opportunity, um like that shows that it's like you're the sole intern there. You initiate that own opportunity for yourself. There's no application portal that you just applied for and just like filled out a form and then like you submitted it. Because well, for that, like they already know that you can do that because you applied to the college. But if you can initiate your own like opportunity and make it for yourself, then it shows that you're an initiator and you're also a leader and you also advocate for yourself, which is pretty good. But also, like I said before, or sorry, I didn't say this before, but it's really hard to get someone to like listen to you, especially because you're probably gonna get like tons of rejection, and that can definitely get discouraging. I've applied to my fair share of programs as well, and I think that they're definitely extremely valuable. But I would say the reason why it's like a bit I feel it's a bit better to try to cold email or to get like into a program that you don't have to pay for is because if you're in a program, you'll just not be given as much attention because they have so many other high schoolers to attend to. But if you initiate your own opportunity, you're the only one there. So you'll get like a ton of attention on sole, like basically you'll get private mentorship, which is pretty good. And also like things are just really expensive. And if they see that you paid for a position there, they're like they don't really want to see a pay to win. They want to see like a merit to win, something like that.
Yeah, if you're doing these, especially for colleges, and they see that you sort of paid to get in, they might take it with a grain of salt because anybody can go, and if you're privileged, especially, you can just go ahead and pay. But they want to go and see that you really competed against people and they chose you and you stood out, and that's why they'll see something sort of special in you.
Yeah, I think all of that is super valid. But yes, I think that all that's super valid. Just kind of reiterating, kind of if you're taking research seriously, of course, the best thing to do is to reach out and to show that curiosity. But I do know like a lot of us who are in the meeting today like have already reached out a lot and are kind of stuck. So I would definitely say if you have no like experience, if you're kind of stuck. And I think one thing that like go alongside while you're reaching out could be one of these, programs, even if it's that you have to pay because it's a way to get experience. So not necessarily, I think it really depends like what you're doing and how you're viewing it. If this is like, oh, like if you're just going to pay and this is just like the extent of the research that I do and oh, I'm like a researcher now. Obviously that probably isn't as good and kind of like Andra and Sabrina said, it doesn't look as compelling to universities either. But I think it definitely if it's something that you're just trying to learn, honestly, you don't even need to, if it's like an online research program, um, you know, you could do it, you could not do it, but a lot of it is just for your own like learning, understanding, and to kind of grow in that area. But yeah, if that's something you're looking into, I would still kind of recommend it. And not, yeah, because I know it really depends on which area you're in. For instance, like I know here in the Bay Area, it's actually extremely, I live in the Bay Area, it's extremely hard to get internships, research opportunities, especially if you don't have connections. Like for me, because I know people, around me who have like connections at Stanford or connections at blah, blah, blah. They have a mom's friend who works there or blah, blah, something like that. I think if you have connections, of course, it's easier to do that. But for instance, I don't. So it's like, it's been a huge journey and it's really difficult. So I would say if you're also experiencing a similar thing that you've been persistent, but you haven't gotten a lot of responses and it's just not looking as great as you wanted to. And if you haven't had a lot of research experience before, definitely look into those programs. I don't think it's something that you have to be ashamed of or anything.
Yeah,
Um,
honestly. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
I just
Sorry.
want to say props to you for being in the Bay Area and like trying to get opportunities. My social media director lives in the Bay Area and she's also a junior and she was telling me about her experience and I was just like, oh my God, so overwhelmed. So I was like, I'm so sorry you have to go through that, but kudos to you
Oh yeah.
for doing it.
Kudos.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
definitely. Mhm.
also think of these like paid programs as like a learning opportunity. Like it's basically like you're learning. And I know people pay a lot for college, people pay a lot for schooling. So this is also just a kind of school so that you can learn how to get started. And I do think that these are helpful because they get you started really easily. Like the acceptance is it's the acceptance rate is not necessarily like 1% like RSI, for example. So it's easy to get into and it's fast. And then when you send cold emails or when you cold message on LinkedIn, you can be like, oh yeah, I have experience at Lumiere or Pioneer or Crimson, and now I know how to write a research paper. So now I'm interested in your research. So this is how I can help into like do like the dry lab work, for example, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, so I do know, our session has been going on for a while. Before we, end our session or anything, I do think one super, amazing kind of area that I think Dara can speak a lot to is reaching out through LinkedIn. Personally, at least for me, I do know, I'm also living in a pretty competitive area. Cold emailing has definitely not been the most successful. So I know, but Dara also mentioned previously that she's done cold emailing and everything, but LinkedIn is what has gotten like most or all of her kind of research opportunities. And I think one thing, I don't know if you guys also experienced this, but for instance, at my school, people have told me like, oh, like LinkedIn, it's not good to have LinkedIn people, like it's there creates like a toxic like culture, like at school people start like comparing what you're doing, people start starting to, I don't know, not like stalk you or anything, but start like kind of looking to what you're doing and it starts getting really competitive. I would say, at least this is my opinion, of course, and this is something that I actually started a LinkedIn profile in my freshman year summer, and I actually started it because I met Dara, and it was because she had told me that it's such an amazing place to reach out and meet new people, which has really proven true through my experience. I would say if you have a LinkedIn profile and you just have like a couple activities on there and then you're not doing anything about it, there's really no reason to be having a LinkedIn, I think. Like if let's say you put like one activity there just to have an account, or if you put all your activities there and then you don't do anything with it, there is no reason to have a LinkedIn. But if you're really making a full use out of it, I would say, don't be afraid of other people, like looking into what you're doing. Like, don't let anything you're doing be inhibited by what you feel like other people will be doing, if you know what I mean. Like, if it's good for you, then you should go do it. And so yeah, kind of reiterating that if you have a LinkedIn profile, definitely take advantage of that and show your work through that. And so yeah, Dara, would you like to kind of go into exactly kind of like how you reach out? Like, what are your
Yeah.
steps to kind of give people a more clear path?
Yeah, so firstly, I recommend everyone who are participants in this meeting to start a LinkedIn account if you haven't already. Start one, create one, make sure it's the fullest. You have mentioned all your activities, all your experiences, all your education, everything that has happened in your life that has to do with your professional stuff, include it into your LinkedIn. And then I use LinkedIn as sort of like a social media platform. I search up all the people at these top universities and I connect with them. So I connect with a lot of people and I gain a lot of connections and I message them through that. Because LinkedIn is an app, and generally people at universities, they have it on their phone. It pings as if you're sending a message notification to them. So you're getting in like a more exclusive version of, like uh of their life, and they can actually read your message and respond to them. And actually, I do kind of understand what you're saying, Audrey, as to how people kind of I feel like there's a lot of toxic culture amongst high schoolers to see what people do in their life. Um, Honestly, this is going to happen whether you have a LinkedIn or not. I find that people are very nosy, and then they'll just find information somewhere the other way. Like if you win a competition, I feel like that company will make a website and then they'll have your name on it, and then people are going to find out. Whether you put it on your LinkedIn or not, people are going to find out, or someone's going to know your friend was also in the competition, they found out, and then gossip is going to go all the time. It's happening, it has happened before and after and during LinkedIn. So I don't think that's something that should really stop you. Um, as for my process, um, um, I find that I try to connect with as many people as I can. So what I do is I go onto the search bar and I type what's my field of interest. Say, for example, my field of interest is data science in healthcare, like Andra. So I'll type data science in healthcare, and then I'll put, and say, for example, I live in the Bay Area and I want only universities in the Bay Area because I want to do wet lab research. Okay, forget that this is data science. I want to do wet lab research in biology, change the topic. Then put all the Bay Area or universities that you can travel to. Don't put Harvard, for example, because you can't travel there. So put all your local universities or any Californian universities. And then put the location and then just connect with as many people as you can. So I recommend connecting with postdocs, professors, assistant professors, even PhD students, because everyone, like Sabrina was saying, you can always get yourself like a lukewarm email, and you can always come to the top and anyways get the top opportunity that you want. So I connect with all these people, and not everyone connects back with me, but there's like a limit on LinkedIn for 100 a week. And when I started my journey, I sent a minimum of 100 requests per week. I sent a minimum of 100 because that was the max that you could as a basic subscription. So I would connect to as many as I technically could, and I kind of gained all my connections. And personally, I've got all my opportunities through LinkedIn, and I really advocate the usage of LinkedIn. And you can also read a lot about research. Once you connect with these professors and say, for example, they do not respond to you, but you still have them as a connection, you can look into the research that they're doing. Say, for example, I was talking to Audrey about this. I use this particular example, maple leaves. Say, for example, you're interested in leaves, but that professor is interested in maple leaves. So read more about maple leaves and look through their research. And professors do make posts of what they're doing, and they constantly make updates. So it's kind of like a For You page. So you're constantly updating your For You page with information that you do like. So you're also kind of learning through that process. Yeah, LinkedIn does say that you're too young, but honestly, like, I don't really follow that. Just lie about your age, I guess. I don't think I lied about my age, but I just like clicked out and then I went back in and then it automatically allowed me for no reason. But just like just have a LinkedIn anyways. You don't really yeah, like don't apply for jobs, I guess, because a lot of jobs are on the jobs part of LinkedIn are like you can't really work if you're like legally not allowed to work in your particular state or country. That's the reason why they do have this limit, because LinkedIn is a job searching platform, or that's how it's marketed to be. So yeah, so just go there, but do not apply for jobs. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was going to move on to like kind of one of the questions in the chat, but go ahead. You can add on to.
Oh, I also just want to add to the importance of LinkedIn. It's been super helpful for me. I was applying to the scholarship and I actually was able to win it because there was a voting round and I asked a bunch of my connections on LinkedIn to sort of vote for me. And everybody on there is super supportive and it was really helpful. And I think that just making sure that you connect with people who, because LinkedIn will also recommend people who sort of have the same interests as you. So I think that's also a very beneficial sort of segment of LinkedIn that can help you out, or even just like seeing what other people are doing, but like sort of setting up standards for yourself. So if you see somebody's at the college that you like, a lot of these people are really nice. I actually had some people reach out to me and they said like, "Oh, I see you said Stanford was your dream school. If you ever have any questions, like I'm right here." So it's been a really nice journey using LinkedIn. So I definitely do want to emphasize that it's important. And for those people who are sort of concerned about other people seeing what you're doing, people are going to be nosy anyways. But there's no reason to really hide what you're doing. You should be proud of it. You should be putting it on display and let things be. So I really liked LinkedIn, and I've been using it since I think my sophomore year. So I don't think there's too many people on high school using LinkedIn, but it's definitely a way to connect with people from the college that you want to apply to, or even high school students like you who are really motivated.
Also, kind of adding on to like the social media aspect. Sorry, it's really dark here, but I would say also another great place is Instagram. I actually, for my nonprofit, this is kind of going branching off, but I have gotten like every single connection that I had to a nonprofit, such as like Project Connect or everything starts small. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was thinking of the acronym and it's like, oh my goodness. But I've gotten all of those through Instagram DMs. Um, everyone is really nice, like super nice. So I would say like everyone will support your post, everyone will follow you. I would say if you're trying to get, oh, maybe don't Instagram a professor, that's kind of weird. But I would say if you're trying to get connections too to like student researchers, Instagram is definitely it's a good place because yeah, it's easy, it's fast, and also like mostly everyone has it. I would say Discord too, but I know a lot of people like don't have Discord. But yeah, I don't have Discord, but I know people use it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all super helpful. And again, I know Andra and Dara said, people are going to be nosy. And, just imagine if, you're like, oh, I don't want to do something just because some other people will, talk about it, and then in the end you don't do it. Like, don't you feel like that kind of, wouldn't you regret that? I feel like that would kind of like suck. So yeah, definitely, be proud about what you're doing. And if you're really secure in in your own work, if you're actually passionate, if you're really genuine about your work, and if you're secure about what you're doing, you wouldn't be, too afraid of, people, looking at your LinkedIn profile. Um, Okay, yes, I think we've gone
Yeah.
over most of these questions. I know somebody asked how long does cold emailing usually take. Um, I do know like a lot of our panelists have mentioned like it does take a long time. Like I know Sabrina said she had to, send out 100. Even me, like I've sent out like probably close to that and still nothing. So I would definitely say still be persistent about it. If it's hard to get research opportunities, definitely look at programs. Don't just feel like, I've reached out to so many people and nobody's responding, and that's just it. Like that's like my research journey. Like definitely don't be like that. Still continue to learn, still continue to reach out. And if you can't find any opportunities at all, definitely look into, any programs, even online, paid programs. Um, and yeah, and feel free to
Yeah.
connect with any of us on LinkedIn. Do you guys have any like closing thoughts or anything like that?
Yeah, I just wanted to also answer that question. I do have kind of a cold emailing trick. And I have spoken to Audrey about this. So what I usually do is I use ChatGPT or any other kind of generative AI that you use, and I put in my profile, basically my experience, my education, what I can provide to the lab, and like yeah, and then I kind of go into their like the professor that I mean. I go to their like lab website or their like LinkedIn or basically everything that talks about their research, and I copy paste that. I'm like, I want to intern at their lab. LinkedIn, please give me an email template, and I kind of go from there and I kind of edit because the way LinkedIn writes it sounds as if you're very interested in their research and you're actually passionate, and it talks about a lot of specific details. And like Sabrina said at the start, that makes them feel very personal um, and feels like appreciated about their research. So I think this is a easier technique that I've developed more recently, so that you can send more emails because email writing takes a lot of time. I also looked. I also went through the chat, and and I I read up and I saw that there was a question about how did you what kind of remote research you do. I say there are a lot of dry lab research, but if you're more interested in like CS related, or I feel like you can make any kind of research into CS, like even a lot of biology relation research, you can kind of make it computational. And so that's what I've kind of done at the start. So I think it's quite easy to do online. And if you don't, I know some people don't live in areas where there are labs nearby. And I know for even for international students, a lot of local labs might not be accepting of high school students because they only accept like undergrads. So if that there's any kind of policy like that, then I think yeah, these are generally the opportunities. Like you obviously cannot do wet lab research at your home, but generally it's either dry lab or computational stuff. Yeah.
Um, actually, I have like an opportunity as like my closing remark. Um, but if anyone's interested in neuroscience-based research or like field research, okay, wait, this is kind of like a little silly, but my nonprofit is called Mind Tricks, the Magic of Neuroscience, and our whole thing is that we present neuroscience magic shows to kids, and we basically use card tricks as analogies for different aspects of the brain. Right now I'm having my own personal research project that I'm working on that's trying to prove the significance between interactive learning and like lecture style learning. And so far, I've conducted my own experiment and I've got a statistical difference or statistically significant amount, which has led to like show significance that there is more like there's something called myelination, which is able to myelinate parts of your brain because when you're interested in something, you'll myelinate a pathway, and that myelination pathway is going to allow you to recall information better. And so my experiment has proved that. And I actually have chapter applications open right now to join or create a chapter in your own region of Mind Tricks. And another project, if you guys are interested in research, if you want to apply for a chapter, a requirement would be to hold these shows, but you could also work under my project right now if you're interested in that. You could work under my project to continue doing those experiments in your community for neuroscience. If you guys are interested in doing that neuroscience-based research, my Instagram handle is Sabrina AAA or like Sabrina AAA. You can either contact me directly or you can contact me through the Mindtrix official page. So my nonprofit is called Mindtrix Official, like I said before. So if you contact the Mindtrix official page or apply for a chapter, in just one of the applications for a chapter, just footnote that you were at this research seminar and that you want to work under my project. And you can do that as well. That's another thing. I'm very accepting. I like will most likely I will accept you. If you apply for a chapter, you can do that neuroscience-based research if you'd like. Right now, I do kind of have chapters already in like Massachusetts. So if you're Massachusetts-based chapter, let me know and then we can contact you. We can just work directly together. But yeah, that's another thing that I think would be pretty fun if you guys are interested in neuroscience.
I also just wanted to reply to this question, who asked what you do as a remote researcher. Remote research is also like very important, and I know it's not exactly like being in the lab, but it's definitely something that gives you a lot of experience. And I've had so much time to bond with my mentors through our Zooms. Of course, I wish I could meet them in person, but I did get invited to a conference in San Diego, and I got to see them. So remote research is also just extremely valuable. As a remote researcher, I sort of just like do a lot of lit reviews. I also come up with some of the wearable studies. So like I look into other wearables or technologies that people are using and sort of see if we can implement that into a study and sort of propose new ideas and do concept presentations to them to sort of like spark some more innovation in research. So remote researching is also very rewarding. And I just wanted to close this by saying like stay curious and don't limit yourself. You're going to get a lot of rejections, and even if you get one through cold emailing, you'll either not get a reply or if you're lucky, either get an acceptance or rejection. And you need to be thankful for them even saying like, sorry, we can't have high schoolers in the lab, because the fact that they responded means a lot. So yeah, it's a really just I mean, just don't give up is what I'm trying to say. Like, you're gonna get a lot of failures, but don't let that discourage you, because I mean, I'm sure that everybody here has had a lot of failures and past experiences that didn't go the way that they wanted them to. But just don't let that discourage you, because you can definitely get far.
Yeah, thank you so much for everybody's
Yeah.
closing remarks. I hope all the questions were, responded to. If you guys have any more questions or if you guys would like to, stay connected, we'd love if you guys join the Discord community, the link we just put in the chat. So that's something, like I mentioned, that is like Basically, it's called Youth Empowerment Society. This is we have like a series of workshops regarding all these different topics, like getting opportunities, how to start your own nonprofit, which was like a topic that we did like 2 weeks ago. So we have this series going on. If you're interested in, staying connected, just being a part of the community and getting these resources, definitely. Yes, we will be hosting more workshops in the future. And also, if you go into the Discord group. If you guys ever have any like workshop requests, like a specific topic that we haven't covered before, definitely put that in, and then we can see if we can get that done. Like I can look for panelists and other students who have experience in that area for you guys. So definitely join the Discord group and connect with us. Let us know what else you need, and actually also in that Discord group. If you have experience yourself and you help other students or give high quality advice, we also have a system where you can get volunteer hours. So it's a really amazing group to be a part of. It's something that we launched recently. So yeah, super excited for you
Yeah.
guys to stay connected with us. And yeah, Dari, did you have something to add?
Yeah, and if you guys want to connect or contact me personally, I've also put my LinkedIn and email in. Also about yes, I find that it's a very like inclusive community, and I feel like every high schooler should join, even if they're not interested in research. I think it's a very diverse community, and you can connect with a lot of people. And I find that because we're a combination of a lot of different nonprofits, including ESS, which is the founder organization, and Sabrina's and Andra's nonprofits, Mindtricks and Project Connect. So like there are a lot of nonprofits. So if you're interested in getting into nonprofit work, or if you're interested in getting research, there are a lot of opportunities for you.
And also, yes, we will be having a recording of our workshops and stuff. It's on our yes, what is it again? YouTube channel. So this is our second workshop and it is a series. So we do plan on doing a lot more. And as always, if you guys have requests on specific topics to cover, definitely let us know in the chat, like in the Discord community, and we can see, what are the speakers we can do, and something that we want to plan, every month or twice a month, possibly, to do these workshops on different topics that people are interested in learning more about. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you guys did learn a lot. Personally, I also definitely learned a lot, and definitely stay persistent and don't give up in your research journey. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. Have a great night, great day. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you to the panelists too. You guys are literally amazing.
You too.
Okay, thank you. See you guys soon.